Thanks for joining us. A shocking development in Monday's shooting in Montreal that left 3 people dead, including a police officer. A coroner has identified the alleged shooter as 25-year-old Seth Scott Hatfield from Lethbridge, Alberta. Officers were met with gunfire yesterday when responding to a 911 call about a person with a gun at a Hilton hotel. Police have not given a motive for the shooting, but say a long gun was seized. The coroner has also identified the other 2 people killed, 34-year-old Montreal police officer Mohamed Lamine Benradoin and 68-year-old Michael Mizrahi, a bystander who was caught in the crossfire. In relation to the investigation, Lethbridge Police Service conducted a search at a westside townhouse on Les Moines Crescent West on Tuesday. Landon Hickok is there and has more.
Police remain on scene at this townhouse complex behind me where they've been ever since Tuesday morning. Some residents had to be evacuated due to the expectation of weapons being present at the house police are searching in. LPS have confirmed they are working with Quebec authorities in investigating the shooting that occurred in Montreal on Monday, and it's speculated this house has something to do with it. It was confirmed earlier in the day by the Quebec coroner the identity of the suspect is 25-year-old Seth Scott Hatfield from Lethbridge. The University of Lethbridge has confirmed that Hatfield was a student at their school, and they condemned the violence from Monday and his views and ideology. They have added they are fully cooperating with authorities during this investigation. Hatfield's name is found on the university's Dean's Honor List for the winter 2026 term for philosophy. As for the suspect's motivation, well, nothing official has been publicly revealed. A 104-page manifesto was found at a hotel room under his name near the site of the shooting. It contains names of what he calls Class A elements and that he calls to be liquidated. It includes adult entertainment companies, CEOs and billionaires, and corporations with suggested ties to Zionism. He ends the manifest with the plea, go forth and kill them all. LPS say they won't confirm that the townhouse search behind me is in any way directly connected to the Montreal shooting that occurred on Monday, or the suspect of the shooting for that matter, and they won't provide any further comment at this time. For Bridge City News, I'm Landon Hickok.
In light of the news about the shooter's manifesto, the mayor of Montreal, while visiting the neighborhood where the shooting occurred, spoke with reporters about the radicalization that we are seeing online.
I think media has changed. The way that people talk to each other has changed. If you look at social media today, how can people think it's okay to talk about people in a way that you wouldn't say it in person? So I think we have to work on making sure that our city and our people in our community feel safe, not only in the public space, but also on our social media. When you see recruitment of young people through social media, it is very concerning. So, and when you see recruitment, it's not only recruitment in terms of doing something criminal, but it's also on the ideology behind social media. So I think there has to be a way that we work more together around making sure that those conversations that are happening in social media, we can actually address them and also fight against those conversations that are not very positive to all communities. I'll give you an example. Yesterday, we saw many images in social media about what was happening, and very graphic. How can we accept that? It desensitizes, ça enlève la sensibilité. Thank you, desensitized, right? We can't accept that. As a society, we need to be respectful and make sure that we're also prevailing around the dignity of the police officer that we saw yesterday and the family that had to actually see those images. So I think social media and that digital space will be one of the biggest challenges we have for the future to make sure that our cities and our communities are safe and that we're preserving a good conversation, a positive conversation that sometimes just derails in social media.
Calgary city councillors have begun an emergency debate on late-night sound levels at Stampede Festival. It comes amid a tit-for-tat spat with the province that has morphed into a full-on standoff. In an expletive-laden social media post Monday night, Jeremy Farkas took direct aim at the critics of the city's rules meant to balance Stampede fun with the livelihood of downtown residents.
It's time to cut through the bull about the Cowboys tent. By now, you've seen the coordinated smear campaign from out-of-town politicians, and they think you're stupid and want you to believe that we're somehow canceling Stampede by asking the big tents to use the same rules in place at Coachella, Lollapalooza, and all of the other world-class festivals. And that's the first piece of bull. We're not talking about Stampede at all. We're talking about a few off-site tents that have been treating their neighbors like garbage. But what isn't bull is that as your mayor, I'm fighting for you. I want you to know that a permit is not a license to bully a neighborhood, but I answer to the nurse on an early shift, the parent getting kids ready for school, and the worker who needs sleep.
Farkas says last year the city had hundreds of complaints about noise, property damage, and intoxication, which led to the city's decision to force weeknight outdoor concerts to end at midnight and implement a new cap on how loud the music can be. In a post on X, Premier Danielle Smith says the, quote, fun police have struck. She wants council to reverse its decision. Police say an Edmonton school custodian has been charged with child sexual exploitation offenses. Police say Crispolo Comilas was arrested at his Edmonton home last Thursday. At the time of his arrest, the 47-year-old worked as a custodian at Louis Saint Laurent Catholic Junior Senior High School. He has been charged with accessing and possessing child sexual exploitation materials. While the investigation and charges are related to online offenses, the nature of the Camillus' employment put him in direct contact with youth. ICE is encouraging anyone with information about this case to contact the local police or Crime Stoppers at 1-800-222-TIPS. Alberta's Minister of Hospitals says she has put an end to a rebranding of the province's paramedic service provider. Lethbridge was one of 7 municipalities that received the news from Adriana LaGrange. Lethbridge Mayor Blaine Higgins says he's grateful the province has taken a second look at EMS contracts for integrated fire and EMS. He adds that he has begun discussions with the other parties that did not want to accept the contract to discuss what the next steps are.
So that would be Spruce Grove, ourselves, and Leduc. And so we are planning to get together and have that conversation, as well as all the others, those that did accept but still might find ways to make this work better within their community. It all comes down to safety, and I know the minister that's top on her list to make sure that we all find a way to have this continue in a way that is sustainable. We need to understand this needs to be sustainable. It can't go on the back of the taxpayers, so we'll find a way to be able to make that sustainable.
Acute Care Alberta announced last month that Emergency Health Services Alberta would be changing its name to Alta Paramedic Health and outfitting ambulances across the province with new logos and providing paramedics with new uniforms. An organization that has been helping youth in Standoff, Alberta, to become contributing members of the Blood Tribe community reached a milestone on Monday. BCN's Naveen Day has more details.
Kainai Children's Services Corporation officially marked its milestone 30th anniversary with a celebration at Red Crow Park. This significant occasion honors 3 decades of unwavering commitment to KCSC's core mission to ensure that Blood Tribe children always remain deeply connected to their family, community, language, culture, and identity.
Kainai Children's Services had taken on the task of providing services and resources available to our families because our families suffered during the residential school era and also the child welfare era that continued on after the residential school stopped. There were a number of atrocities that our people had faced, and one of the most important ones was the loss of parenting techniques. And for us to provide that as a community resource, that's paramount, and have our own people providing those services as well.
The Blackfoot name for the organization is Stawatsama, which means raising children. When Bill C-92, the Indigenous Child Welfare Act, received royal assent in 2019, it acknowledged the right of Indigenous peoples to govern child and family services. Since becoming law, Soup says KCSC has seen greater success as the organization further expands the services it offers.
So these are some of the kids that have come voluntarily to our prevention unit to assist us when they were growing up. They participated in our land-based learning and our cultural camps. And they have come full circle to where they have graduated high school, and they're in between that age of high school and college. They can come back and be mentors and give back to the community. So we're on our second, third generation. We have one of the longest running, Tony Delaney, our MC, who had been attending the programs voluntarily and come back, and he was a youth mentor, and then he worked in the community, and then he made it to chief and council. So Tony Delaney is one of the success stories that we'd like to highlight as well.
The KCSC also hosted a community conference Tuesday, providing land-based learning and parenting. Naveen Day, Bridge City News, Standoff.
Today, the University of Lethbridge celebrated National Indigenous Peoples Day with a special event that included a Blackfoot naming ceremony and the announcement of a significant gift supporting the Indigenous Artist in Residence program. Dr. Heather Davis-Fish, Dean of the Faculty of Fine Arts, says the funding will allow Indigenous artists to undertake residencies at the university. She says the initiative is the first program of its kind in the faculty and the first to specifically focus on Indigenous artists.
So the funding for this project is provided through the Connected Communities stream of TD Bank Group's funding, and the program is providing just over $100,000 of support for 2 years of the program. So a really generous gift and a really meaningful way of supporting Indigenous artists. The way we've designed the program is that it's flexible in terms of how many artists will be selected as artists in residence. Artists can apply individually or in groups. So we're hopeful that we will be able to support between 2 and 10 artists over the 2 years of the grant. And then in terms of the connections with our students and our community, we're expecting that several hundred students over the course of the program will have the opportunity to learn from the artists in residence through guest artist talks, through studio visit, through public talks that the artists might provide. The program is for emerging and early career artists. It is for artists from any artistic discipline, so visual art, performance, music.
She says the residency is for periods of 4 weeks to 8 months, so it provides living expenses and access to all of the studios and facilities in the faculty. If you're looking for an affordable place to live, residents in Lethbridge can stay put. A new report from Royal LePage reveals the most affordable cities in Canada. Lethbridge tops the list, followed by St. John, New Brunswick. Thunder Bay, Ontario slips from first to third spot, according to Royal LePage in its 2026 Most Affordable Canadian Cities report. The report looks at the cost of homes, mortgage payments, and median incomes to rate cities for affordability. Lethbridge Mayor Blaine Higgins says the report is a welcome surprise.
I know what we have in our community. It's a beautiful community. We're grateful for the different services that we have, and to be able to see that announcement come out is very satisfying, to be quite honest. That's across the country, and so we do have a lot of folks that are moving to our community, and so of course it does put a strain on some things, but you know what? We are very multicultural and we love it.
Known as a commercial and cultural hub of southern Alberta, Lethbridge residents pay about 18.9% of their household's monthly income on mortgage payments. The aggregate price of a home is $388,700, and the median total household income is $96,600. That's what the report finds. Also noteworthy is that Red Deer came in 4th place. Edmonton was 7th, and Calgary did not even make the list of the top 15 cities. The Southern Alberta City of Medicine Hat is preparing to host this year's Special Olympics Canada Summer Games. The Games will bring in 1,700 athletes and coaches from across Canada to compete in 10 sports for 5 days in August. On Monday, the city recognized contributors and sponsors who are supporting more than $2 million toward the event. The city says it's that kind of support from community members and roughly 1,700 volunteers that make the sporting event possible.
we're still looking. And the more people we have, the more, of course, of a concierge gold standard we could give people. When I look around and saw the amount of people that are really excited to be part of it, I think that why wouldn't you want to be? And I think that really we get that opportunity to really showcase our community above all things and on a national level. So I encourage people to come and be part of it for sure.
Seeing all the work come together, this has been a long project, several years, and having it, be this close, this excitement just builds and builds. And I'm sure for the athletes as well, it's getting, they've been working hard, training, and now it's all coming together.
The games will run from August 11th through the 15th. There's some pretty big hockey news to pass along. The Edmonton Oilers have made their controversial hire, naming Mike Babcock as their new head coach. Babcock replaces Chris Knobloch, who was fired after the Oilers were eliminated in the first round of the playoffs. The Oilers were cleared to hire Babcock after the NHL concluded an investigation into his conduct during his brief stint with the Columbus Blue Jackets in 2023. He resigned just before the start of training camp amid an investigation into reports that he invaded the privacy of his players.
Sean Haney here with realagriculture.com. Cargill is aggressively expanding its grain handling footprint across Western Canada following a massive multi-asset agreement with Parrish and Heimbecker. Announced on June 22nd, the deal hands Cargill full ownership of high-throughput elevators in Vegreville and Huxley, Alberta, also Reeford, Saskatchewan, alongside a critical 50% stake in the Fraser Grain Terminal in Surrey, British Columbia. The transaction absorbs nearly all the infrastructure P&H originally picked up in its $150 million buyout of Grains Connect in late 2025. This strategic shuffle follows a May 22nd Federal Competition Bureau mandate, which ordered P&H to immediately divest the Reeford site to preserve localized wheat purchasing options. If regulators greenlight this new multi-facility sale to Cargill, P&H will walk away retaining just one single elevator from their original 4-site Grains Connect acquisition. With all 3 target elevators sitting directly on CN Rail's high-capacity main line, Cargill is locking down massive export velocity. For Bridge City News, I'm Sean Haney with realagriculture.com.
The Association of the Canadian Travel Agencies and Travel Advisors say Air Canada is cutting commissions in a move that threatens to put some out of business. Travel agents say the country's biggest carrier told the industry group the lower rates will take effect on July 1st. Compensation arrangements for bookings vary by agency, often between 8 and 10% of the base cost of a booking. The decision comes after Air Canada trimmed its flight schedule and suspended its financial forecast for the year amid a prolonged spike in jet fuel prices caused by the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. The Bank of Canada governor is raising alarm over global imbalances. Tiff Macklem gave a speech in Paris today saying when trade or fiscal imbalances become too one-sided for too long, they can spill over with consequences for inflation, stock prices, and relationships between countries. Macklem says innovations like artificial intelligence and cryptocurrencies are exacerbating some of these imbalances and making them harder to track and regulate. He is urging financial leaders to lean more into open trade and stronger cooperation across borders to build a more resilient global system. And now here's a look at today's markets.
The TSX was down 74 points on the day to 34,927. The Dow was down 45 points to 51,666. The S&P 500 was down 107 to 7365, and the Nasdaq was down 579 points to finish at 25,587. West Texas Intermediate oil was down 82 cents to 73.03 US per barrel. Natural gas was down 9 cents to 3.15 US. Gold was down $80.88 to 41.1073 US an ounce, and silver was down $3.49 to 61.56 US an ounce. Feed wheat is at $8.14 per bushel. Barley is at $6.53. Canola is at $16.76, and corn is at $7.37 per bushel. Live cattle were down 67 cents to $255.15. Feeder cattle August contract was down $2.27 to $368.15. Lean Hog's July contract was down 42 cents to 94.22. And the Canadian dollar was unchanged over the past 24 hours and sits at 70.40 US.
Recapping one of today's top stories, Monday's deadly shooting in Montreal that left 3 people dead has a shocking Lethbridge connection. The alleged gunman has been identified as 25-year-old Seth Scott Hatfield, a former philosophy student at the University of Lethbridge. bridgecitynews has obtained a manifesto written by Hatfield in which he expressed hatred toward women and called for more violence. Coming up next, we have our weekly chat with Toronto Sun political columnist Brian Lilly, who will give us his thoughts on the latest StatCan inflation report, the newly passed bail reform bill, and Prime Minister Carney's $3 billion condo bailout. You won't want to miss it. It's coming up next. Also, when you see news happening in your community, be sure to send us an email at bridgecitynews.ca. You can also visit our website or our YouTube channel anytime to check out more of our content and our poll questions.